What is that? What we have here is the brand new, latest and greatest upgraded 2025 Mercedes-Benz GLA. Yeah, this is the entry-level Benz SUV in their lineup. I want to give you a walk and talk exterior, interior, talk about all of the great things. We'll do a quality experience and we'll go for a short drive. Let's check out the brand new Mercedes GLA. Here we have the brand new 2025 Mercedes GLA, which is the entry-level SUV in their lineup. You also have the GLB, which is a more upright, squared-off version, riding on largely the same platform. You also have the GLC, which is larger yet, based on a C-Class car, and of course the GLE and the GLS. This is the lowest cost option for Mercedes-Benz, which starts at around $53,000 Canadian, or 40 and change in the US side of the market. There's lots of great features and elements and design themes we want to talk about because this vehicle is quite significantly improved. But let's take this from the top. We'll talk about some of the exterior components and features on this vehicle, and then we'll move on into some of the interior and the engine and drivetrain themes. So first of all, adaptive headlights are a feature and option for a lot of these vehicles. I love the LEDs on a lot of these modern day Benz. They definitely have a very prominent look. Of course, right here we have a smaller, more pointed schnoz that you're finding on the GLA and the GLBs, which the GLB is the more upright, more squared utilitarian version, basically very largely the same vehicle. This vehicle here, the GLA, gives you a more sporty look, a nicer stance, and looks the part, although it's not quite that exciting. And the GLB gives you a third row as an optional upgrade. There are some great features we need to talk about here, but before we get into that, look, you have all your features. You get the 360 view on these vehicles. You get this great grille. Love this Mercedes bar, very simplistic but very clean. Of course, we have the design language here, very similar to almost every other Mercedes these days. Gives you these jutted, more aggressive looking front bumpers. And as we cycle around, you do get a lot of this plastic cladding, which is great when the weather gets yucky, like the snow and grit and salt that's put on the road. This does a great way of keeping all of that grit on the shiny paint job. Other than this nicely high gloss piano finishing right here that they add in here, just gives it a nice little detail. Of course here, two-tone handles with single access in. Makes the use of your key fob null and void. All you have to do is put this in your pocket. You can operate the lock, and it automatically folds in the mirrors and locks all of the doors. You get these laser cut wheels, and you'll notice the standard brakes are a conventional disc brake setup, and same on the front here as well. A lot of the upgrades, you can get the AMG package, gives you cross-drill ventilated discs. You get a beautiful set of running racks. It just gives this nice prominent look to haul your roach-infested mattress to the dumpster. Up here you have a beautiful panoramic glass, and we'll show you that on the inside here shortly, because realistically on the GLA, similar to the GLB, you get a full glass. The primary one for the drivers and the passenger in the front actually opens up. It doesn't just expose daylight, but it actually opens up, where the additional glass back here does not open. It just gives light inside. Once the sunshade is retracted, then you still get all kinds of light in here. It's a very comfortable, beautiful sitting environment, and the quality of materials inside we'll talk about shortly. We'll talk about key fob for a second. You can unlock, and you'll notice the mirrors open up, and you can lock up, and it recloses. Now over here, we also have, of course, panic and naturally press and hold, and then you get the tailgate opening. Nothing too exciting or crazy going on there. That's pretty standard these days. You do get beautiful LED tail lights in here, and you'll notice, without going too much into the vehicle, let's just combine this since we're in here anyway, you do get this beautiful Mercedes-Benz floor mat that they throw in here. Peel this back, flip the handle, and you're exposed to further electronics and technology. You get your extra storage or tow hooks here, and basically there's no spare tire in there. Drop that down, and these are pass-throughs, either left, center, or right. It's very accessible, and you could throw your hockey sticks, golf clubs, or any lumber that you decide to take a trip to use. Right here, a little extra storage capacity, as well as right here, does give you options to lock and tie down your goodies. Of course, you have this nice security feature right here to make sure that your goods that you're storing in here, out of sight, out of mind. You get beautiful lights here. It kind of gives people from a distance behind a heads up that there's something here. And naturally, you can either press and hold this, and it closes this hatch and locks the vehicle at the same time, or you just hit this, press and hold, and then the hatch actually closes itself. As you'll notice, easy to use, simple system. And I just love the overall styling design of these vehicles. I think it just looks very sporty. Cycle around, you look at the front hood, very, very nice. You've got a very prominent hood, has these nice design themes and sight lines that come down here. Absolutely beautiful. And more importantly, look at it from the side. It looks very sporty. And if you didn't look at the front end, just isolate that, the rest of it looks very much like a Porsche Macan, which is definitely a compliment because that's one of the nicest sporting SUVs on the market today. And we cycle around the back, and this is actually my favorite stance of this vehicle. I really do believe this new GLA actually looks way sportier than it actually is. You get these flared haunches, very aggressive looking. Again, LED taillights, and most importantly, you get these face exhaust tips. Yeah, you can stuff that in there, but there's actually no exhaust tips. Unlike Audi, literally just putting in blank covers. A lot of manufacturers now are just putting on those blank designs. It's not real, it's more of a facade, but that's just what these manufacturers are up to these days. And the one thing you're looking for, the more sporting experience, you'll find that this vehicle differs quite significantly from one of its brothers, the GLB, which the GLB is much more squared, and you'll find a squared off back end, and the front end looks very similar, but the overall packaging of the GLB is quite squared off, more utilitarian, and offers great amount of headroom. Both the back passengers and offers a real functional third row as an optional upgrade for an extra $1,500 or almost $2,000. Get you another set of rear seats. Now that's hard to find these days in a world of full-size SUVs because very few three-row SUVs are either functional, as you know the Volkswagen Tiguan has useless third-row back seats. Otherwise, you've got to step into larger vehicles like the Mazda CX-90 or like the Toyota Highlander. There's vehicles that do offer three-row, but you've usually got to step up into something more mid to upper size vehicles. At least the GLB gives you that third row. Unfortunately, this GLA is only two-row vehicle, but it does offer the looks and more of the styling. It does definitely look more the part for a sporting experience. But let's take a look under the hood and talk about the magic that's going under here, because this one has a very similar engine. The GLB and the GLA share a very similar drivetrain. Let's pop that hood, shall we? Pop that up. And what we're looking at here is obviously a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine right here, transversely mounted because it's primarily a front-wheel drive vehicle that you can upgrade for an extra couple $1,000s and get 4MATIC, which gives you all-wheel drive system. And it does potentially give you the off-road package. And I'll explain that shortly here as we get going, because this vehicle does not have that, and I'll show you how you can tell. And I would strongly suggest get the 4MATIC upgrade on these vehicles. The Mercedes GLA 250 like this with the front wheel drive, it works great in some climates, but really when you get the snow and you get all of the salty conditions, or you get harsher off-road potential, or maybe doing a little bit of spirited driving, you probably want the all-wheel drive. I'll tell you right now, this vehicle here is sliding around a little bit in these snowy conditions, and it certainly helps to get the 4MATIC upgrade. Certainly worth an extra couple grand. Again, it does give you the off-road technology as well, and we'll show you that. But basically what we have is your transversely mounted turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that makes about 221 horsepower out of this vehicle. But because this is a mild 48-volt hybrid system that does up you another 13 horsepower in peak format as well for critical times that you need that extra little boost. So it's a pretty substantial drivetrain. Some big upgrades here from this year. Previous generation did not give you that hybrid system. And you do, in fact, get that 8-speed dual clutch gearbox, which makes it spirited, fun, peppy, and you can feel it. There's that delayed takeoff and a little bit more harsh acceleration. It shifts quicker, and it's more interesting than a standard garden variety torque converter auto. Although with that said, when they fail big. So you've got to think about reliability long term, but it is a fun vehicle to drive, and the gearbox actually works wonderfully with this double clutch setup. Okay, let's take a look in the back seating, shall we? Here, let's flip that open and climb on in. All right, let's get in here and we'll explain a few things. Now, sitting back here, obviously we have the sunroof open. Back, this space right here does not open up. Now, the sunshade does expose this, and of course, now you're getting the light in the back. It opens it up. It feels very bright and cheery. You get this just basically gives you the light in the front. This section here does actually open as well. So you're getting air or sunlight, depending on which your preference. Back here, strictly just a little bit of sun. But it's a nice space to be. This upgraded GLA that we're sitting in right now actually has a significant amount of knee room here. And as you look right up here, I have a significant amount of headroom. And as you can see, a lot of that's done because what they've done is the contour of the headliner does sort of contour it upwards to give you this extra headspace, which in fact it does. And so it makes it very comfortable. Now, because this is not a hybrid vehicle, you do have a potential hollow here. You have this channel for the drive shaft for the rear, and naturally as such you have this sort of clunkiness here. Pretty typical, nothing new, nothing old. This is pretty standard. Here you do have heating vents, very similar to the front. These turn like this. You can turn it off, turn it on, and you can basically direct them accordingly. Down here you have this. You can throw some change. It's not really a lighter or ashtray anymore, but you do have your plugins. Everybody needs to be connected, right? And naturally, as we look over here, we have this nice material. Feels very well put together. You have these very adjustable, not just the two on the side, but certainly in the middle as well. And down here, this pulls down and you can open this up and you get a couple of cup holders right here, which is great for both passengers. Of course, close that up and slam that shut. And naturally you get speakers. The sound is absolutely going to be blasting in your ears, but it's an overall nice place to be. You do have a little extra space here if you want to put your can of Coke here. I love the brushed aluminum as you get here. Basically power windows, power locks, speaker, and it's all finished up very, very nicely with materials that are very nice to the touch. You'll notice also this accented stitching here, and this is a theme that runs throughout. You'll notice it up in the front as well. We'll talk about that here shortly, but everything is very nicely put together. You've got airbags here. And if that's one thing Mercedes does, is focus on a lot of the safety components and elements. The only thing you're giving here up is in the GLB. Again, you can get an optional third row over there. You can't get that in the GLA. So it's a decision you have to make if you want the looks or you want the practicality. But they're more or less based on the very same platform. But there's some other great features I need to make you aware of. If I can suggest a certain packaging you need to get is the off-road, of course, with the 4MATIC system. As well, you want to look at the exclusive trim, which is the mid-range. That does give you an upgraded stereo system, as you'll notice right there, as well as an augmented reality navigation system and aluminum door sill plates. This would shine if you've got that upgraded package. The intermediate package does give you some nice extra little details, and it sort of inspires you to open the door and give you that extra little lighting detail. But there are some host of safety features in these vehicles too, and it's quite nice to note that, I mean, when you buy one of these, you are going to get some standard features and some upgraded features. Unfortunately, not everything is thrown in. You do get the standard automated emergency braking with the pedestrian detection system, but there is available lane departure and lane keep assist. That is an upgrade, and unfortunately that's not a standard feature in this vehicle. As well as another optional upgrade is going to be the adaptive cruise control and lane centering feature. So some great features available. Unfortunately, it's not packaged with a lot of standard features. It's a great vehicle, but you're gonna have to spend the money if you want to get in a fully loaded version of one of these GLA SUVs. All right, let's climb on in here, start the car up, and I'm going to show you some of the great features. Everything's soft touch. Look at this, it opens very nicely. More touches right there, that opens nicely and gently. And you'll notice you do get a lot of this nice detail. I love this brushed aluminum, or this aluminum trim. It does work very good. You have programmable seats. You have 3 spaces there for that. Heated seats in the passenger. And this incredibly awkward and strange material, but I'll get to that later because there's a different look here and I want to talk about that. You do have the potential to throw an extra cup or extra storage there. It's great, power windows, and naturally the material is actually very, very nice. I will say that it feels like it'll hold up extremely well. It feels very, very durable, has a nice luxurious look to it. And naturally, here's where your controls are for the sunroof. I don't necessarily want to activate them today. Well, looks like we have some seriously ugly weather out there, so we're just going to leave that well enough alone. But this does open and close on a sunshade right there, so you are able to close it up entirely. The windshield, pretty standard conventional. You do have an upgraded heads-up display on here. Some great technology there. More airbags, as safety is clearly key in Mercedes world. Here again, programmable seats, presets, 3 of them, and naturally the rest of the control modules right here. And down here, all your lighting specs and details, power windows and all kinds of great detail right here. And down here, you can open up the rear trunk. That's one of the features and ways to do it, as well as the key fob's the other way to do it as well. So here it goes. Let's turn this on and I'm going to show you some of the technology. Let's hit this start button right there. And it lights everything up, as you can see right here. This is great because you can go home, X that out. And Mercedes Me. Now, Mercedes Me, you need to be registered because this here will allow you a little touch finger and allow you to do some navigation. This little feature here, right here, you have backup camera tech, and here dynamic. This allows you to make changes to your driving modes, and we'll show you that here in a second. But you'll notice there is some great theme lighting. This theme lighting runs up in here. Theme lighting runs up in there on the doors. It definitely runs here, and there's all kinds of theme lighting. It sort of blends in there. It's hard to see in this lighting, but it's absolutely gorgeous, and the overall ambiance is nice, and the quality is great. The feel is awesome. I love these. I'm not sure if they're high quality or not. Time will tell on how they hold up, but they're very, how do you say, satisfying to operate? Very, very nice indeed. So that's very good. Of course, you can turn off your auto shut off or start stop system right there. But you'll notice you've got haptic controls. Now, this is a controversial detail. Not everybody loves these haptic controls, just as Volkswagen. A lot of people did not love when Volkswagen went to all screens, and all these manufacturers are now adopting haptic controls, which does make it a little tricky sometimes. It takes some getting used to. Of course, you do have the paddle shifters. We have a double clutch gearbox, so it's legitimately shifting gears. It works well. And of course, here you have your wiper controls right here. Tuck around here, and you'll notice you have right there, you'll notice it lights up. That's because that's now the heated steering wheel capability. And it shows you. And so if I activate it again, it says it's off on the dash. You'll notice that. So you do have heated steering wheel. You do have heated seats. As I already mentioned right here, it's great. Now let's actually start the vehicle because we're starting to fog up in here. It's getting kind of chilly in here. I think it's time to turn on the key. Let's go. This is very tacky rubber. It's great because you can put goodies in here and they shouldn't slide around very much. It's a very sticky, great material. It actually holds everything in there and sturdy very well. You have USB port. You have a standard 12-volt DC charge here. This here feels a little bit flimsy, if we're being honest. This plastic feels like some of the older Mercedes from back in the day that would tend to shatter. And I found a lot of these types of parts within Benzes be the weak point in a lot of their older vehicles. You might get good drivetrains, and then they go and put plastic parts like this that tend to break with a few years under their belt. Of course, you have more space for storage down in there. And what's nice with these vehicles, you'll see, gone are the days in a lot of manufacturers to give you actual buttons and switches, but you're able to get it here. And this vehicle does come equipped with actual buttons and knobs. You can activate that. It's beautiful. It's great. Piano finishing is wonderful as well. I would say overall, the quality of the materials looks quite good. There are a few cheap areas. Sticks, these stocks, feel extremely cheap. And in my opinion, I think these cheapen the overall feel and the interior quality. Just these two stocks. Everything else actually feels quite well put together. This display is not touchscreen. This display is. This is part of Mercedes' brand new MBUX system, MBUX. Very, very nicely upgraded. And you'll notice you can scroll over. You can do like an off-road theme. Of course, it gives you some of the statistics available a few minutes after driving. In this case, this one's not equipped with that. Tire pressures. You can scroll over. It gives you engine information, consumption, vehicle, gives you that data as well as engine, and you can rev that up. And it gives you some cool features. It's a little bit of a toy. Of course, devices you can log in. You do get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in here, and they're wireless. It's great. Comfort features, apps, radio, stereo, phone, connect everything up. It's great. Now, in case you're thinking, hey, that's a strange display. Yes, with your haptic controls, you're able to go back, click on that, and then obviously you're able to toggle back and forth between a couple of the standard look, and then of course hit that again, and it gives you that revised look that you're looking for. However, if you tackle that, now by hitting that home button, you're able to get this modes. And with the swipe of this haptic controls, you're able to scroll through and get a variety of different features. So, and you'll see you get the look, the understated, you get the sport look, you get the classic, there's an assistance and an off-road mode and service. Okay, so let's just go back, try something more unique. Let's go back to sport mode, press the button, and we're in. Now you have this whole new look. It looks very aggressive, very sporty, and as you rev it, it reacts to your throttle inputs. It does all kinds of great features that get you excited. There's a G-force meter over here, engine data, and of course some general information, temperature, outside temps, and all of the other features that you could possibly hope for. It's a great detail. These haptic controls is certainly a little bit of a learning curve, and over here you have your other controls, more stereo related, volume, speaker, stereo. You have also, of course, your phone and all those kind of factors. Very similar to the layout in the older Mercedes-Benz, but now they've converted them to haptic. I do love this aluminum detail right here. It's a good look throughout. And so the overall ambiance in here, you could say is relatively good quality. You can tell there's some corner cutting in this vehicle, but the GLA is to be expected. It's their entry-level SUV. It's their base trim. It's their baseline vehicle. And what I would suggest is, if you can afford, upgrade the extra couple $1,000, gets you the off-road package. And I can show you why this vehicle is not equipped. Because down here, when I hit that dynamic button, now we hit that and you'll notice we have comfort mode, eco mode, sport mode, individual, and unfortunately as I scroll down, it goes back up, it just locks in and goes back to comfort mode. That's why, because the off-road feature is not enabled in this vehicle and you're not able to get it. That is an upgrade. The off-road features get the 4MATIC system, and it does give you all of the off-road prowess that you could possibly want for in this type of SUV. Let's face it, this isn't a G-Wagon. This is in fact their entry-level GLA. But you know what, if you want to rip around in the snow and you want a best traction, always go with the 4MATIC system, and the off-road upgrade package means you're going to have better features, and as well go with that mid-trim level, of course, for some of the tech. Gives you some of the nicer features with the stereo, as I already mentioned, as well as the navigation, as well as the illuminated door sill. It's wonderful, and the seats are very comfortable. I'm not going to lie, you can adjust them to just about any liking right here. You can change that, the ups and downs. It's a very comfortable seating position, as well as you've probably wondered about telescopic as well. You have tilt and you have telescopic all in one. So that is another nice feature right there. Very simplistic. It's not power, but once you set it, you pretty much forget it. So right there, and we can just lock that into place, the little lever at the bottom, and it's exactly where I need it now. I can see the full display, as it wasn't pretty much in my perfect position. And the driving position is very nice. I look back, you've got great visibility out of the rear seats, of course through the very back. You've also got a great view over there and back this way as well. That's the thing with these more boxy designed SUVs, you're often getting a whole host of a better look and view outside, whereas a lot of the sportier SUVs these days, you sort of lose a lot of that. And this one does bring practicality. It brings the view, it brings the amenities, it brings the comfort and the technology, but it comes at a fraction of the cost. Now, these aren't getting any cheaper either, and nothing in the Mercedes lineups are getting any cheaper or more affordable. Let's do a little bit of a quality experience on this vehicle. I'm gonna do a quick walkthrough and show you some of the details on this, how it actually feels like it's holding up. Oh, there's some flay in there and some slop. All right, well, let's go for a quick drive then, shall we? Okay, first I want to start this up. There's a little bit of surging initially, and it sort of seems to level out. So I don't know, we'll keep an eye on that. But if you're out test driving one of these vehicles, listen for a cold start and make sure that the vehicle you're driving doesn't have a bit of a surging, because I mean, computers are always making adjustments and whatnot for fuel mixture and airflow. But I mean, you want a certain level of refinement, and engines that idle and hunt and surge are not, you know, don't inspire confidence. So let's just take this for a ride. Let's just throw it into drive right there. And we're gonna go for a quick spin, shall we? Again, the view out the front is good. The view out the back is not bad. It's got a pretty solid look straight out the back. But those rear pillars are a little bit obtrusive. So if you're, if you like having a little bit better visibility all the way around you, the GLB might be a little bit better choice. But this looks good. I mean, it's fine. The back window is quite large. These views this way, every which way, is quite good. I did notice a couple of weird gulps, almost like, you know, when your heart sinks. Well, the idle was doing that here. So a couple times it kind of misstepped a little bit. It felt like it idled down, it came back. A couple of little oddities, I would say small anomalies. I don't know if that's an issue. I don't know if it's unique for this vehicle. Just to be aware of. I will say it's quite quiet in here. It's good. You know, I like this vehicle for what it is. A small cost-effective vehicle starting, you know, again, in that, you know, we're talking in the 40,000 and change for US dollars, Canadians, you know, mid 50s. I was having a look in the Trader. It's hard to find anything at that base trim level of $53,000 in Canada. Most of these vehicles I find, you're finding them around $60,000, and mid-spec is probably where you want to be anyway. You want to get the 4MATIC, you want to give that mid-trim level. Now you're at 60 plus. So that's realistically probably the sweet spot, that mid-level. So let's get moving, and we'll say
you have not subscribed to this service. To use it, you first have to activate the service in the Mercedes Me app.
See, I'm not subscribed to the service. So the Mercedes Me app, you're gonna have to subscribe to it, as almost every manufacturer. A lot of these services now on these vehicles are getting a little bit much. Mercedes, BMW started a lot of this, and a lot of these things are subscription based. Toyota's doing subscription based. My Jaguar F-Type had subscription based services. They might give you a free year, free 6 months, free 2 years. But at the end of the day, they usually lock you in. These cloud-based services, subscriptions to get heated seats. If you don't pay it, you're not getting heated seats. To me, that's just a mess. And I don't like the direction a lot of these vendors are going, where you're having to spend that extra dollars just to turn on a feature that's already installed. The hardware is there, the module's there, the wiring's there, and they force you to pay the subscription. I'm not in favor of that at all. I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. But a lot of these manufacturers are going that route. Certainly a fair amount of chop. We've got some, you know, the roads aren't clear and it's feeling kind of rough. But the car is eating up the bumps. It's banging around pretty good. I actually did a review on a couple of other Benzes recently. Naturally, the GLE will give you a much plusher ride, as you would expect. The GLC as well. But the GLS is absolutely like riding on a cloud. This is not. This is giving you a very basic conventional suspension. It does bang around. It's not clunking, it's not making any strange noises, but it's a very simplistic setup, and you're gonna get a very unrefined driving experience. But it does feel very quiet and isolated from a lot of the road noise. So it's actually quite nice, if we're being honest. I don't mind the drive. It's slightly unrefined, but it's not harsh, it's not noisy, and it's very insulated. So it's very nice that way. Steer feel is quite good. It's very direct. There's a little bit of delay right off center there, you'll find. But let's go downshift. Let's try the transmission. So now I'm N4 and it downshifts. So here we go. Let's just hit it. Traction control picking up because we've got icy roads. But it does seem to shift quite quickly. Remember, it's a double clutch gearbox, and that's what I like about some of the more entry-level Mercedes with the dual clutch. You get the, you know, the CLAs and the GLAs and those kind of vehicles. I love that double clutch gearbox. I love that it's a little bit more aggressive. It's a little bit less refined feeling, but it's a little sportier and it's a little harder. And I just like that sportier feel. That's my own personal preference. If you're buying an S-Class, you don't want that. You want pure, quiet, silent refinement. But you know what? For this vehicle, it's fine. It works. Acceleration is a little delayed. And I find, because this has this generator startup system with the hybrid assist and everything, just, it's smoother on the takeoff is what I'll say. The one thing I will comment that, again, now that we're on snowy roads, you wouldn't notice this if you live in California. It wouldn't even be a factor. But here in, you know, in snowy land where we're at, I'm finding that these front wheel drive version, what I'm driving, is not the 4MATIC. It tends to understeer, and when you gun it in the corners, it doesn't pull through the corners as nicely. So that's where I'd suggest, if you're living in the snowy road conditions like we're living up here, I would strongly suggest that you get the 4MATIC. And I've said this before, I'll say it again, I do believe that that's the way to go with these vehicles, is the 4MATIC. You know, there's a host of standard features, but unfortunately with some of these entry-level Benzes, you're having to upgrade to get some of those standard features. And it's unfortunate because they come packaged up at a significant cost, and it's not difficult to add an extra $10,000 or $15,000 to the base price of these vehicles to get into something that you actually want, something that you can live with. A word of caution, I will say, with all this added technology, if you're not liking the piano finishing, you know, that's something that a lot of these luxury car brands are going with. Mercedes doing a lot of this piano finishing. It looks great, it looks wonderful in the showroom. These haptic controls look wonderful in the showroom. In real world, this scratches, you need a microfiber. This is kind of a little awkward to use, some of the haptic controls. We know Ferrari has received some feedback on that. A lot of buyers aren't loving the 296 or the SF90 because of the haptic controls. But that's just something that these vehicles are all coming with now. And it's something that we're gonna all have to get a little more used to, because it feels as though a lot of these vendors are starting to go that route. Not sure why. Not sure why we can't just stick with something more garden variety. You know, rocker switches, buttons, knobs, things that are more tactile. These haptic controls are very smooth, and they feel nice and they look nice, but sometimes you find yourself having a double stroke, or you end up, you know, doubling down or hitting a different button than you intended to, because you're using a small space. Like when I operated these menus on the dash, as I showed you, you're sort of having to double try that, and it can be a little distracting. And some manufacturers do a better job of it. This one here is not really all that bad, but again, just a word of caution. If you are going to take one of these out, if you want to take a closer look at a new GLA like this, give it a try, test drive, try those haptic controls, because I think you'll find you either love it or you don't love it. And that's just something that we all sort of have our own opinions on. But from a driver's experience, this vehicle does get, they quote, 26 miles per gallon in the city and about as much as 32, 34 on the highway. So an overall blended average around 29, 30 miles per gallon means that it's going to be decent, reasonably economical with this hybrid system on board, or this mild hybrid with 48 volt system. It's very unobtrusive. It's a nice system for sure. I just have to wonder about the long-term durability of these vehicles. You know, the quality control feels good when you start rattling body parts and panels, but what is it really what matters under the hood? And what's the longevity that we're going to expect out of these types of vehicles as we see the whole industry shifting to hybrids, EVs, CVTs, dual clutch gearboxes, more electronics across the gauges, across the dashboard. You've got to expect that some of these parts are going to get extremely expensive when they break, and they will break. It's just a matter of time. It's like our cell phones, right? They don't last forever. They glitch out. Sometimes you need to replace parts. Sometimes you need to throw it away completely. So what's that going to mean for the longevity? I'm not sure. But I will say this is a pleasurable little vehicle to drive. I love the looks of it. The stance is wonderful. The driving dynamics is great. And there's plenty of pickup and giddy up. Oh yeah, see it? Zippy. It does feel very, very spry. And there's a little bit of turbo lag when you first get on it, but as you rev out, it feels like it's got enough zip. And they say 0 to 60 is in that 6.7, 6.8 seconds. So it's not extremely fast. I think some of that comes in the way of turbo lag. Not extremely quick, not all that exciting. But it's a nice package, nice luxurious interior feel, and certainly a nice exterior stance. I love the looks of it. And honestly, that's my overall take on this Mercedes GLA, the brand new latest and greatest for 2025. It's a nice overall package. And if you're interested, certainly that would be the differentiation that I would have to consider making. Do you want the practicality of the GLB, or do you want the looks of the GLA? Would I buy one of these? Absolutely I would. I like the style. I wouldn't load it up. I would probably select some of that mid-grade and certainly look at the 4MATIC. Other than that, definitely something you need to look at if you're looking for a cost-effective, affordable vehicle. Remember, we're talking 60 grand here, or a mid-spec, upper-spec Highlander for the same kind of money. Now, you could argue that Toyota brings a better product, more reliable. We'll see, debatable. Toyota's had their problems here recently as well, too. And the Highlander's slightly larger. But it's something to think about, something to consider. Definitely another couple of reviews you're going to want to look at. Right there, I test drove the outgoing GLE, the older GLE model. And of course, right there, Jaguar, the F-Pace. I loved it. This new refresh on the F-Pace, I think absolutely dominates on the interior finishing, and the quality destroys everything that I've seen in that price range. You definitely want to check out the F-Pace by Jag and that Mercedes. You're going to love them too. Hope to see each and every one in the next one. See you real soon. Bye-bye.